See, mic levels look good. Aha! There we go. I wasn't seeing all this other stuff before. Alright, well, I guess I can go ahead and get going on this. I mean, this is just random anyway, as it's called, the random stream. So, what's going on? Welcome to Joe's Geek Show, the video series where we talk comics, and yeah, I'm playing with live stream stuff. So I recently moved like my webcam and my microphone from upstairs to in the basement because, well, my daughter now has the entire bedroom to herself, and trying to do live streams and video stuff up there while she's sleeping, yeah, not so much. So I decided to move everything down here, try it out, make sure that the connection's good, which it seems to be doing very well. So like I was saying in the I'd say in the title, I'm just going to talk about a couple things just for the fun of it. I mean, as long as I'm doing this anyway. So I'm going to first start with Supersons. I also recently watched the first episode of Swamp Thing, so I'm just going to talk about that a little bit, and hey, whatever else pops up. And looks like we already have someone in the watching already. So hi, random person watching. I have no idea who you are, but I'm saying hi anyway. So we're going to start with the Adventures of Supersons, issue number 11. And one of the reasons I want to talk about this is because it was one of the books that I unfortunately did not get to review this past week. Because, you know, it takes a while for me to do those videos. Particularly, it's the skits that get me. Those take sometimes like 2 days for just like 30 seconds to a minute of time. But, you know, hey, I like doing it, so it's all good. But I gotta say that Peter Tomasi, I mean, he's been writing a really good book with Supersons, and you know, it's really sad to see that it was busted down to a 12-issue maxi series that only has one more issue to go. I mean, I know for a fact I'm going to probably start shedding tears during the final issue. That's just going to end this entire Supersons line. But I'm just going to go ahead and give a little synopsis about what's been going on within the book itself. So, essentially, Damian, a.k.a. Robin, as well as John Kent, a.k.a. Superboy, they've been kidnapped and taken off-world by this alien space version of super villains from Earth, led by Rex Luthor, who is just modeled himself completely, obviously, after Lex Luthor, and even thinks himself to be more intelligent. Like, he's got everything from, like I said, the looks to the intelligence to the arrogance. So it's very interesting how they managed to take all of those villains and just make miniature kid versions of them. And he's been chasing the Supersons pretty much all over the galaxy because, you know, sometimes they get captured, sometimes they've been getting away, and it's been relatively fun in that regard. And so finally in this issue, I guess this is like the big battle, which the previous issue ended with a robot version of Jonah Hex, as well as the sort of dream version of the adults of John and Damian. that they came to, help them and stuff. And of course, the kid that was sort of like the kid Joker, he went ahead and joined the Supersons, essentially helping them trying to defeat Rex Luthor. And they even have a Green Lantern version. He's like a Green Lantern in training. I guess he's, if I remember correctly, he's like a couple hundred. It's like a couple hundred years old. Like, he's been training to be a Green Lantern for like a good solid minute. Oh, hey, look at that! I got the green screen feature in OBS on, so it's getting a little Green Lantern kid out of there. Oh, that's so sad. His green suit looks awesome. And yeah, it's basically just one big blowout battle, primarily this issue. I mean, as you can see, you got kid versions of just about everybody. You got the Reverse Flash, a girl, Solomon Grundy, and man, so many. Like I said, you got the kid Joker, and even on the cover, there's what they call the Doomsday, so like a girl version, like a kid girl version of Doomsday, which I thought was really interesting. And like I had also stated, you got these adult versions of John and Damian, because through one little storyline within the Supersons, they had gone to this house that sort of, I guess, kind of made like dream versions of the, like dream future versions of themselves, like maybe as if they never got out of the house and it was just like some kind of repeating loop. But they managed to break out and become real enough to where they can help them do that, which is really interesting because since John is being imagined as he's got a belly and he's kind of overweight a little bit on the belly, so I think that's interesting, especially if they actually, like, when he is an adult, ring true to that and make him a little bigger, while like I said, like Damien himself is like really bulky and stuff like that. So I mean that's pretty darn interesting. And yeah, just pretty much like that through the whole issue, just one battle after another until Rex Luthor, he's like initiating his plan where he's gonna jump through this wormhole that he made that's supposed to take him straight to Earth where he can begin the invasion. And so Damien and John are like, they're jumping in, they're trying to stop him. And it turns out that this was just a trap, because as soon as they jump through, they get trapped in this little cube, because Rex Luthor had some kind of like some little failsafe in there, so that after he goes in and he gets through, that nobody can follow him. And so for the foreseeable future of this, John and Damien are essentially trapped inside the Tesseract, like the cosmic cube is what it looks like to me. And then, just got at the very end of the book, just a preview of the Krypton comic book based on the Krypton TV series on the Sci-Fi Channel, which I am kind of interested in checking out on the DC Universe app, because, it looks like an interesting show. Look at some of Superman's villains, pre-Superman while Krypton's still around. So, I mean, that's Supersons. Like I said, one more issue, and it's going to be so sad for me to let this comic book go, because I had the main series, and it was just absolutely fantastic. Peter Tomasi is easily one of my favorite writers going on at DC Comics right now. I mean, even just what he's doing on the Detective Comics has been epic, to say the least. I think it'd be really interesting if maybe he's the one that got to replace Tom King on the main Batman book. But, there's a few comic book writers and stuff that, I think could do a good job on that. But maybe we'll get into that a little bit later. So then also today, I know I'm a little late to the party on it, but I finally sat down and watched the first episode of Swamp Thing. And right away, when I was watching it, like, especially at the credits, like, I got this weird, it was almost like the DC version of what Netflix was doing with the Marvel shows in terms of, like, the opening and stuff. So, like, with Daredevil, they had the city with him and stuff, and it's kind of trickling down, like, forming out of blood and stuff like that, which is really cool. And, like, a Swamp Thing, like, it's a full green layout, like, a full green overlay with, like, all the swamp stuff, like, with all the swamp features and stuff like that, which I thought was really cool. But I was just sitting there thinking, like, to myself, like, good lord, it looks like one of the Marvel Netflix shows. So I thought that was really interesting. But I gotta say, like, the production value on the Swamp Thing show was absolutely, like, in the first episode, fantastic. I mean, even at the very end, when Swamp Thing finally makes his appearance for that brief few seconds, I mean, that is the best that Swamp Thing has ever looked in live action. I mean, I recall my first encounter with Swamp Thing, which was the Wes Craven directed movie, and it actually wasn't until like several years later that I had even realized that that movie was directed by Wes Craven. So I'm sitting there like, dude, the guy who directed Nightmare on Elm Street and Scream and like a bunch of my other favorite horror movies growing up, and he directed Swamp Thing, you know. And I remember seeing some kind of I don't know, some kind of interview or featurette long time ago. I don't know, I think it was on YouTube or something like that, or maybe it was on some DVD, I don't know. And like they were talking about Swamp Thing and like, you know, low budget, all that fun stuff. Wes Craven, like I guess he was the master of the low budget back in the day. I am super sorry for they're mowing grass out front. But anyway, I guess back on track. What was I saying? Oh yeah, Wes Craven directing the original Swamp Thing, you know, and the creature effects. I mean, you know, for the time, it was just below bad, but the movie had, I guess it had a little bit of flair that would made it just a little more interesting. And then the sequel, The Return of Swamp Thing, which was directed by somebody else, and Swamp Thing looked a little bit more like Swamp Thing. They added a little bit more green, got a few more leaves in there, and it was weird. The voice was weird because the voice was different, because I guess the first Swamp Thing, like they voiced him over, but then the second one, it was just the bodysuit guy. I think it was the same guy. I'd have to go back and rewatch the video that I had seen that on. Maybe some kind of history thing, I don't know. But, you know, he did look a little better and stuff, but the movie was just so, oh my god, the movie was just so weird. And that's what I liked about it. You know, that's one of the things, like the first movie, it had that kind of flair that made it interesting to watch. And, you know, even today, I still watch the two Swamp Thing movies from way back in the day when I was a kid. I don't even know what year they came out, if I'm being perfectly honest. I mean, what, maybe the mid 80s, late 80s? I don't know. Possibly early 90s? I have no idea. If you know the answer, anyone in the chat, go ahead and leave comments below. I'm just checking on the baby real quick. All right, she's looking comfy. Baby is taking a nap. That's why I'm able to do this right now. But anyway, back to the actual show. Yeah, the production value is absolutely fantastic, and I just love the way everything looked. I like the layout of the swamp. Virginia Madsen, I didn't even, like, when I saw her in the credits, I was like, holy crap, Virginia Madsen's in this. You know, I'm thinking back to Highlander too. You know, I'm like, dang, she's still acting. She is still acting. You know, Candyman. I remember her from the Candyman. And she just kind of like, yeah, she's playing a mom that, you know, who was friends with whose daughter was friends with Dr. Arcane, and I guess she died, and she blames Dr. Arcane for the death, which is just kind of like, you know, kind of want to know a little more about that. But, you know, the first episode only goes so far. I haven't watched the second episode yet, and you know, I'll probably do that after this. But I'll say it does tear me up a little bit inside, because I thought that the first episode was really fun. Again, the production value is really good. I thought the cast was great. The acting was was spot on. And I know it wasn't, I think it was like just right before the show aired or slightly after the show aired that they announced that the show was officially canceled before it can even finish its season one. Like, they even cut episodes off of the first season, so it's not even going to be like a full first season. It's going to be like, you know, half of one. And then the show's just pretty much done from there, because I guess the budget's just way too big for the show, which is sad. Because, you know, Swamp Thing's one of those comic book characters that, you know, he doesn't get a treatment very often. And when he does, it's usually subpar in terms of quality, or, you know, this happens where the show gets canceled. Because, like, the only other time that Swamp Thing had a real big big like standout moment in the last few years was the Justice League Dark movie, and they killed him in it. And I was like, why the heck did you kill Swamp Thing at the end of that movie? Spoilers. I hope I didn't spoil that for anybody who hadn't seen Justice League Dark, the animated movie, before. But that was just so gut wrenching because he was barely in the movie to begin with, which I thought was just kind of dumb. I'm like, why wouldn't you give Swamp Thing just a little bit more to do? And then comes in for the final battle and he gets killed. Not even a scene where they replace his body back into the swamp and it's like, oh, he's back again because the Swamp Thing's forever. Oh my god, yeah. So it's kind of disappointing. So a lot of disappointing elements surrounding Swamp Thing's history. In terms of him just being on screen. Though I will say he was in the Injustice versus the Masters of the Universe comic, where it was him, and then there was the Eternia version of Swamp Thing. He's like a swamp creature. I cannot remember his name off the top of my head. I'll have to look that up a little bit later. But but it was interesting because I loved how they connected Swamp Thing to the Eternia version of Swamp Thing, because they're both the guardians of the green for their world, and they can actually use each other's like swamp and green and stuff like that to teleport between the DC universe and the Masters of the Universe, I guess you could say, which I thought was really cool. And and that's one of the things that I've always liked about Swamp Thing. Swamp Thing has this teleportation ability where he can throw you from green to green, and it's why you really don't get to see that much. And I'm hoping if they're at least cutting the Swamp Thing TV series down to just minimal episodes, that maybe we'll even see him use this ability. I think that'd be actually really, really fun. And when we got Master Panther in the comments, hey man, what is up? Hey, how you doing, Master Panther? I'm doing pretty good. I'm just chilling, testing out this the equipment stuff down here, like you probably already heard. And as long as my baby's out, hey, why not have a little conversation while we're at it? So absolutely glad to have you here. So I hope you're enjoying it. If you have any questions or you want to say anything, go ahead and throw it out there, bud. I'd be happy to, keep it going for, maybe a little bit. Because right now I just kind of feel like I'm blabbering. Like I said, no real plan for anything. I'm just kind of throwing stuff out there at the moment. But yeah, I mean, quite honestly, I gotta ask how you all are, like, what you thought of the Swamp Thing pilot. Maybe most of you probably already watched episode 2. Because I know in 4 days episode 3 drops, so I'm gonna make sure to watch episode 2 prior to by with those next 4 days. Cause Friday? Friday's when it drops. Yeah, God, I'm so behind on most of those. I still need to finish Titans. I have not finished Titans yet, if I'm being perfectly honest. But that's just how it goes. But what else can I talk about besides blabbering about Swamp Thing? Maybe that is a good thing to continue on too, because like from what I understand, also from what I've heard, the Warner Brothers is going to be making their own actual like Warner Brothers streaming service. So that kind of makes me start to question what could possibly happen with the DC Universe app, because when I think about it, the DC Universe app is Warner Brothers. It's a Warner Brothers thing. So I'm wondering if when they make the streaming service, the Warner Brothers streaming service, where it's going to be all these Warner Brothers movies, are they going to, at that point, just get rid of the DC Universe app and just sync all the shows into that instead? Because at least from what I've been hearing or reading like online and stuff like that, these are unverified. This is unverified what I'm saying, that the DC Universe app is not, performing profit-wise what they were hoping it was. Maybe because it's too niche or something like that, with just nothing but comic book content, which is great for a comic book person, but for someone who looks for maybe other things in a streaming service app. It is a little lacking in that department, which is why maybe Warner Brothers is going to be rolling out this Warner Brothers streaming service app, which could inevitably replace the DC Universe app, which means you get all of your superhero shows in the Warner Brothers app and, pretty much everything else. Maybe the Wild Wild West, that's Warner Brothers. There's a story behind that with the giant spider in the third act, which was, borrowed over from the unproduced, uncreated Superman Lives movie directed by Tim Burton starring Nicolas Cage, which is a movie that I still, to this day, want to see. I don't know why. I've always wanted to see Nicolas Cage as Superman ever since I heard about that. Good Lord. Is this what my life has come to? Wanting to see Nicolas Cage? Has DC let me down so much in terms of films that I really want to see Nicolas Cage as Superman? Which was funny because he did voice Superman he cameoed the voice of Superman in the Teen Titans Go movie. So I guess he still got to play Superman, but still, ever since I heard that story from Kevin Smith and then watched that documentary, The Death of Superman Lives, I've always wanted to see that movie. It's always sounded so interesting. And speaking of movies, like let's say the animated movies, for example, I recently, like I've seen it before, but I kind of forgotten about it. I recently got the Superman Unbound on Blu-ray, and I was rewatching it. And I was kind of looking at some of the story points and story elements and stuff like that, and it was really reminding me of I think it was Oliver Harper on YouTube. He did a video on Superman. It was like a documentary style movie video on Superman 3, and he was bringing up certain points about, say, the original script about what Superman 3 was supposed to be. And as I was listening to that, and then as I listened to that, I was thinking to myself, oh, that sounds really interesting, And then when I rewatched Superman Unbound, I was like, wow, that is eerily similar. It's pretty interesting. So I guess, the initial point of Superman 3 was supposed to be a movie about Brainiac, and he had already had Supergirl with him, which was slightly different in Superman Unbound, but yeah, he had Supergirl with him, and sent her down to Earth, and then when Superman came across her, this is where it starts to get weird, but they were supposed to have sort of like a romance thing going. Oddly enough, Superman and Supergirl, cousins, but they weren't supposed to be cousins, but I don't know, in the movie, but we know that they're cousins. So there was supposed to be some kind of romance thing going between Superman and Supergirl, but I guess Brainiac was also in love with Supergirl, so then he was going to come down. There was going to be sort of that thing where Supergirl was going to go back with Brainiac because Superman almost gets killed, and then he goes back after Brainiac, and I'm just like, wow. And when I was watching Superman Unbound, I was like, some of the story elements are pretty similar to that, minus the relationship and stuff, and where Supergirl starts out within in the movie. But a lot of those story elements were still kind of there. There was the whole Brainiac, there was Supergirl, it's coming to Earth, Superman kind of getting beat down because Brainiac's super powerful, coming back, boom, 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 fist fights. God, that was such a good movie. I'm gonna go watch it again after I'm done with this. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna do that. That's what I'm gonna do. But yeah, I was just thinking about what Superman 3 could have been if it had gone through before they decided I guess it was if I remember correctly, they decided that the movie was too expensive, so that's when they kind of cut it down, and then whatever remained wasn't much of anything. It became Superman 3, and then because they didn't use Supergirl in Superman 3, she ended up getting her own Supergirl movie, which, oh boy, that's its own story that I don't wish to cover for now. But that's also on the DC Universe app, so go watch Supergirl if you haven't yet. Not gonna lie, I think I still like the Supergirl movie better than the Supergirl TV series. I'm very shallow. I don't like the Supergirl TV series. Oh man, hey, the CW. Let's talk about the CW, man. When it comes to the CW shows, I tell you, talk about just the biggest, heel turn in quality. Like, 'cause I remember back in 2011 when Arrow first started, and I was just enthralled with it. Yeah, it was basically Christopher Nolan, the Green Arrow, and just made him Arrow. It was like, that dark, gritty, realistic kind of reboot. And then season 2 happened, and they're like, hey, let's introduce more comic book elements. And then the Flash showed up, and all hell broke loose when season 1 of Flash came about. Because now they're like, okay, let's do the magic, let's do the multiverse, let's do all this. But yeah, I mean, those first few seasons, those first 2 seasons of Arrow, the first 2 seasons of Flash, man, just utterly fantastic. And it's been sad to watch them kind of struggle, go up and down. Sometimes I'm reading articles where, oh, Flash might get canceled, Supergirl might cancel, Arrow might get canceled. Well, Arrow is canceled now, so I mean, that show's done. And so we're gonna get Batgirl as a replacement. But yeah, just watching that, all these shows getting canceled because the people just aren't tuning in like they used to. And that kind of breaks my heart a little bit, because I am a big superhero TV show fan. I love to get my superhero fix. And when I read that, and hear that, the shows might not be around much longer, it's kind of sad. Like, I'm not gonna lie, especially Flash. I'm a huge Flash fan. Yeah, boy, I'm just blabbering. I promise next time I come on here, I'm gonna have an actual plan. So, looks like I've been going for, 27 minutes now, just for the fun of it. So, I think it's a good point to kind of cut this off here in about another minute. So I want to say, hey, thanks for, those that came out and watched Masked Panther. Hey, thanks for coming out. You're awesome. And anyone else who might watch us later, you too are awesome. All right, well, I'm going to get back to doing my dad stuff, and all right, I will talk to you later. So, have a great day, take care, and as always, stay geeky.